welcome to the Senate Committee on General Laws and Technology. Before we begin, I'm going to ask the clerk to open the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and if anyone wants to alert Senators Aird and Carol Foy and anyone else who's in courts that they might want to come over here and give us a proxy, that would be helpful. The first thing I wanted to do was just take up some re-referrals. I'm going to ask for a motion to refer HB 1777 to Rehab and Social Services.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor of that motion will say aye, please. Any opposed? Oh, it's a roll call vote. Okay.
Ayes 10, no 0.
Okay. Next, we have bills to go to courts of justice, and we have to take individual votes on those. So the first would be HB 1872. We refer to courts. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Please vote aye if you're in favor of that.
Ayes 10, no 0.
Okay, the bill is re-referred. Next, we have HB 2415. We refer to courts of justice. Is there such a motion?
So
Thank you. All in favor, please vote aye. Those opposed, vote no.
Ayes 10, no 0.
Next bill was HB 2725 to re-refer to courts of justice. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor of that will vote aye. Then re-referring 2503 to transportation. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Please vote on the board on that. Oh, I'm sorry. Is the first one closed? 2725 is re-referred. Okay. So 2503 will vote on re-referring to transportation.
He won't be able to see me if I'm on this. Get your flowers.
Okay, and then from Delegate Thomas had one dealing with incarcerated veterans, 2071, HB 2071, that was passed the Senate unanimously after going to rehab, but it does have a fiscal impact, so I wanted to get a motion to refer that to the Finance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we'll vote on that. Yeah, we're not going to hear the substance of it, but it is one that has passed the Senate unanimously.
Ayes 10, no 0.
Okay, thank you. Now, we're going to do our identical bills first before we get to the queue. First was HB 1611 from Delegate Cole, was uncontested. The Senator Van Valkenburg's version, SB 1014, was uncontested and has passed the Senate and the House. This was about hiring people on the basis of direct experience, not requiring a degree unless it's necessary.
Move to report.
Okay. We'll vote on now on 1611 to report.
Ayes 12, no 0.
Thank you. From Delegate Sewell, we had HB 1684, real estate brokers that and salespersons. This is identical to Senate Bill 1309 that came out of the Senate uncontested from Senator McPike. Unless people need any refresher, we can vote on, we can take a motion on that.
Move to report.
Okay. Please indicate your preference on the voting board on Senate Bill 1309. Next, from Delegate Price has a bill that we is identical to Senate Bill 812 from Senator Rouse for extending from 5 days to 14 days the mandatory waiting period after landlord serves written notice on a tenant notifying the tenant of non-payment of rent before the termination of the rental agreement, before they can pursue remedies. Is there a motion to report?
Move to report.
Is there okay, that's moved and seconded, so we can vote on 1719 to report.
Ayes 8, noes 5.
Thank you. That bill reports. The next bill from Delegate Reed, House Bill 1737, is identical to Senate Bill 1471 on the powers and duties of the Commissioner of the Department of Veteran Services. And we passed Senator Deed's bill unanimously and referred it to Finance, and Finance has requested it.
Move to report and refer to finance.
Okay, so we're going to vote on recommend reporting to Finance, HB 1737. Please indicate your preference on the voting board.
Ayes 13, no zeros.
Thank you. That bill is recommended to report. Then we've got HB 2024 from Delegate Seabold on the identical to Senate Bill 1165. This is stating about standards for solar panels and not excluding ones that meet certain standards from the EPA. It's identical to Senator Salim's bill that we passed through the Senate uncontested.
Move to report.
Okay, please indicate your preference on the voting board. Okay. Next from Delegate Seabold is House Bill 2042, which is identical to 1042, which was my bill dealing with CPA educational requirements and allowing experience with a CPA firm or working as an accountant combined with education to qualify you to take the test rather than have to have I believe it was 5 years.
Move to report.
Okay, a motion and a second's been made, so we'll vote on the board.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Thank you. Next is House Bill 2125 from Delegate Sullivan. This was identical to, I believe, Senator Hashmi's bill on a state government internship coordinator that we passed unanimously. It needs to go to Finance.
Move to report and refer to finance.
Okay. Please indicate your vote on the voting board.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Thank you. Next from Delegate Krizak is House Bill 2134, which is the same as Senator McDougal's SB 949 that we passed. Actually, it came through rules, but the Senate passed it unanimously as well, dealing with defining Virginia recognized tribes, federally recognized tribes, and their sovereignty.
Move to report and refer to finance.
Okay. Move to report and refer to Finance. Please vote on the board.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Thank you. That bill is recommended for reporting to Finance. Okay, so now we've got 2203 from Delegate Kilgore, which is the same as SB 787, dealing with reports of due on various dates to Housing and Community Development Department. This, I believe, consolidates varying due dates and aligns them for one annual report. Identical to Senator McDougal's bill that we passed uncontested.
Move to report.
Okay, let's vote on the board then. Thank you. Okay. And that bill, Senator Head? Okay, thank you. Okay, and that bill,
0.
thank you, that bill reports. Next, from Delegate Kilgore was House Bill 2210, identical to Senator Reeves' SB 866, about the qualifications to be a member of the Real Estate Board, added additional qualifications and requirements specific to members who are licensed brokers or salespersons.
Move to report.
Okay, we can vote on the board.
Ayes 14, no 0.
Thank you. Okay, now, the next one, House Bill 2386 from Delegate Marcus Simon, I guess it was identical to Senator Hackworth's 1270, but we have some
Move
amendments.
the amendments.
Okay, all in favor of adopting the amendments will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the amendments are adopted. I'm going to ask council, do the amendments, what posture is that they put the bill in now?
There are 3 amendments, Mr. Chair. The first, on line 21, after offices, insert and. On line 23, after recording, strike the remainder of line 23, all of line 24, and through fraud on line 25. And on line 26, after be the, strike the remainder of line 26 and through court on line 27, and insert Virginia Court Clerks Association.
Okay, can I ask, does that put it, is that make improvements, or is it similar to the other bill? Doug Simon, do you want to address that?
Actually, this will make it identical to the bill that just passed today on the House side, I think unanimously, 97-0. It takes out, it narrows the scope of what they're looking at so that we're not looking at criminal stuff, because that should be over the Crime Commission. So it takes out the criminal piece of it. And then adds it takes out a body that doesn't actually exist from the work group and puts in the correct body, which is the Virginia Court Clerks Association. So they're pretty technical amendments.
Okay, thank you. And this was the deed fraud bill, and there's a motion to report as amended and a second. Let's vote on the board.
Ayes 14, no 0.
2502. This bill was a FOIA bill about exclusion for Department of Workforce Development and Advancement, and the Senate version was from Senator Jordan. I did hear some concerns about the bill, but I have not. I don't know if anyone else has any discussion among committee members. We voted on it before, though. Unless there's further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to report.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by voting aye. Those opposed vote nay.
Ayes 11, noes 3.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to, you can tell the clerk if you need to change something. Okay, 2583 from Delegate Reeser, dealing with DPOR, powers and duties of the board about evaluating whether occupations should, 2553, I'm sorry. Okay, so 2553, Delegate Reeser, from DPOR. This was getting DPOR to evaluate whether occupation should be regulated at a different level than the current level of regulation, or should be deregulated. And they would have to make recommendations to the General Assembly. So they would just periodically reevaluate these things. And it's identical to Senator Jordan's bill.
Move to report.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to report 2553. Please indicate your preference on the board. Okay. Now,
No zero.
thank you. That bill reports. So then from Delegate Simon, we had, I understand this is identical to Senate Bill 1419 from Senator Aird about ear piercing and ear piercing salons in
Is
schools.
this studs.com?
Yes, this is the bill that we heard testimony from Studs.
Can we get testimony on this? Bill?
No, no.
Yeah, and
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
unless
is-
something's changed.
Is the patron properly bedazzled as he was yesterday to be able for us to hear this
Wait.
bill?
I couldn't hear you, Senator Head.
Is the patron properly bedazzled as he was on the House floor for us to hear this bill today?
My bedazzled earrings fell off.
Who
Perhaps-
represents? Who represents them?
Virginia, I'll have more permanent things affixed to my.
Perhaps they were not pierced ears and just merely clip-ons, which could be the problem. Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to report House Bill 2680. Okay. So let's vote on the board.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Rouse.
I hate to slow this train up. And we're doing such a good job. But having voted on the prevailing side of HB 2502, I ask that we reconsider.
Did you want to change your vote or?
There's two, but there's two other members. I'm holding a proxy. Do I need to change the vote?
Okay, so I think you need someone who voted on the prevailing side.
I was on the prevailing
Oh, you
side.
were?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So there's a motion to reconsider the vote by which we passed 2502. And a second, so all in favor of that, we'll vote aye to reconsider. Okay, and then that motion is passed, so we will now reconsider HB 2502, FOIA exemptions for certain information from workforce development and advancement. Is there, okay, there's a motion, a second, to report that bill. Will indicate our preference on the voting board.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Thank you. Okay, now we're up to similar bills, and we have one from Delegate McClure. This was about the renewal notice, or lack of renewal notice, if it's being terminated, giving 60 days notice. I believe this is identical to my bill, or it was similar to my bill, Senate Bill 1043. We have an amendment to conform it, and the main difference is it requires a written notice to clarify. As we passed in the Senate, it says written notice. So I would entertain a motion for the substitute.
You're the substitute.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor of the substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now the substitute's before us, identical to the Senate version.
Move report.
Okay, we'll vote on the board on that.
Ayes 11, noes 4.
Thank you. Okay, next is House Bill 1935 from Delegate Livier Bowling. This is very similar to Senator Locke's Senate Bill 777, and we have amendments prepared that would conform it to Senate Bill 777 that I understand the delegate's okay with.
Move the amendments.
Okay. All in favor of adopting the amendments will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move
Okay.
the report and refer to finance.
Okay. So the vote is to recommend reporting and refer to finance. As amended. We can vote on the board.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Naysayers.
Thank you. Okay. Then we have Delegate Willett's House Bill 1940, which is very similar to Senator Pekarsky's bill on It was a D4 bill on regulatory boards promulgating regulations about the issuance of a license or certification to an applicant who holds a comparable international license or certification issued by another country. This bill, Senator Pekarsky is fine with the House version as it stands and prefers it. So,
Move to report.
okay,
Second.
moved and seconded that we report HB 1940. Please vote on the board.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Okay. Next was HB 2046 from Delegate Anthony. This one, I believe, has this. I'm going to ask Senator Aird to remind us. This is
This is the one I asked you about,
okay.
Mr. Chair.
Move the substitute.
Okay. So just to be clear, the substitute would conform it to
To
Senator
Senator
Aird's
Aird.
bill that we
Yes,
passed
that is
unanimously.
correct.
Okay. With public use of artificial intelligence. So all in favor of adopting the substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So the substitute's before us?
Move to report and re-refer to finance.
Okay.
The substitute.
Yes, so the vote is on referring the substitute to finance with a recommendation to report. Please vote.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Next, HB 2091 from Delegate Shin is very similar to SB 1180 from we already dealt with that one. So 2091 is workforce development and advancement powers and duties. Similar to Senator Hackworth's, we had some technical amendments prepared, and I have additional amendments. So I'm going to first ask that the technical amendments.
Move the amendments.
Second.
Okay, so we'll vote on the technical amendments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then we have those. I have some additional amendments requested by Delegate Shin, just changing will to shall and striking the data reporting requirement, which may lessen the fiscal impact. So is there a motion to adopt those amendments presented by Delegate Shin?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of those amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we are voting.
Move to report and re-refer to finance.
Okay. There's a motion, a second on that to refer to finance and recommend reporting. All in favor, vote aye.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Okay, thank you. Now we've got HB 2153 from Delegate Carr about housing developments by non-profit organizations, comprehensive plan. This was similar in concept to, or similar to Senator Hashmi's 1178, but without religious specificity, using nonprofit organizations instead. We had sent it to General Laws, who I believe has completed their meetings, so we can consider this here. The vote would be whether or not to report. Is Delegate Carr in the room now? Do we need anyone to people need further discussion, or?
What are we doing between the two of them?
Maybe we should wait for Delegate Carr because she's going to.
Pass by temporarily.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We'll pass that by temporarily without objection. So now, from Delegate Carr, we had a architect's licensure bill, 2154, similar to Senate Bill 1310, from Senator McPike, which we passed. There's just a technical difference, and I understand that the House version was acceptable to both patrons, is what I was told. Is that accurate?
I forget what we did. It was like a to or an it or something, right? The House version got it, right?
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to report.
Move the report.
Okay. Okay, all in favor of reporting that will say aye.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Okay. Then From Delegate Krizak, we had 2166 on horse racing and parimutuel wagering, amending the definition of breakage. This is similar to SB 864 from Senator Reeves that we reported on a 12-0 vote to Senate Finance. And I would entertain a motion to refer to them with a recommendation to report.
Move to report and refer to finance. Second.
Okay, so we can vote on that.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Okay, that bill reports to Finance. Then 2482, HB 2482 from Delegate Krizak as well, dealing with the Procurement Act. This was additional public works contract requirements, basically that they would do safety training programs, maintain records of compliance with applicable laws, and approved apprenticeship training programs.
Move the amendment.
Okay, so the amendment would conform it with, I believe, Senator Carol Foy's bill. All in favor of the amendment will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move to report and refer to finance.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion, a second, to report and refer to Finance. We'll vote on the board.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Okay. Next is from Delegate McClure. This was similar to Senate Bill 1212 from Senator Pekarsky, who has conformed her bill in the House to the House version. It's the no junk fees is, I believe, what they're referring to it as, and consumer protection bill.
Move to report.
There's a motion and a second to report the bill as it came to us. All in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, otherwise.
Ayes 10, noes 5.
Thank you. Next, from Delegate McClure, we had HB 2557, which is similar to Senate Bill 993 from Senator Williams-Graves. My understanding is that Senator Williams-Graves' bill, with her consent, was conformed to this bill as we have it,
Move to report.
and that she was okay with that. So there's a motion, a second, to report this with exemptions for real estate brokers, salespersons, and rental location agents.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Okay, thank you for your patience while we got through all that. Now we're up to our regular new bills to us. And I've got in the queue, I'm going to repeat the order that I've got just so patrons can be aware. First, I have Delegate Reed. I've got Delegate Laufer, Delegate Reeser, Gardner, Tran, and Shin. So Delegate Reed, welcome, and tell us your bill number.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is House Bill 1738. A couple years ago, we actually all worked together to create a veteran strategic plan, and as part of that veteran strategic plan, we also identified that one of the things that we needed to do was to be able to address suicide prevention. Veteran suicide prevention, there's about 184 veteran suicides throughout the Commonwealth during any given year, but one of the unfortunate things is that we don't know the manner in which the suicide occurred. And Mr. Chair, I should stop there first and say that there are actually line amendments that need to be put before you first.
Motion and a second to adopt the line amendments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the line amendments are adopted.
And before I continue, the line amendment specifically, in the original language of the bill when it was in the House, it had identified that what would be collected by the Department of Veteran Services was cause and manner of suicide. But as we start to do more stakeholder engagement, what we really need to do is the actual cause of the death is the suicide. We need to know the manner. And so not the cause and the manner. And then the other thing is that there was a line that we are striking that would have notified the descendants in the event that the Department of Veteran Services had requested the autopsy report. And that was something that was determined by the chief medical examiner that it was not something that they wanted to do or that it was necessary for them to do. So back to the intent of the legislation is to be able to change what we currently have as a coordinator, create this into a program, and then to be able to enable the Department of Veteran Services to be able to collect information from across the state bureaucracy to be able to identify the manner in which suicides are occurring for our veterans, and then to be able to affect positive policy changes to prevent those suicides.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions for this bill that was uncontested thus far in its travels, or comments?
Mr. Chairman, move to report and refer to finance.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, and I should say, is there anyone who has any issues with this bill who feels compelled to speak now or forever hold your peace? Anyone want to give a thumbs up? Okay.
Online, who would like to speak, please?
Otherwise, we can proceed to vote. Okay, so that bill is referred to finance with recommendation to report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members.
Thanks. Next in the queue, I've got Delegate Laufer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee members. HB 2748 ensures that the Department of Veteran Services can directly access certified copies of vital records, including death certificates, to assist veterans and their survivors in obtaining benefits. This allows the process to become more efficient, reducing the burden on veterans and their families.
Okay. This is a pretty straightforward bill. Is there anyone who feels compelled to weigh in on either side of this?
Move to report.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to report HB 2748, and we can vote.
Nice.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Thank you.
From Delegate Oates on common interest communities, termination of certain management contracts. I'm sorry, I'm reading my sheet, and I should be reading the queue. Next was Delegate Reeser. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going out of order. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Speaking to the bill. Bill number is HB 2736. So this bill expands the Virginia Values Veterans Program to military spouses. Military spouse careers are often interrupted by frequent moves of our military members. So this would allow them to be a part of the program as well, and hopefully that would lead to more veterans being likely to stay in Virginia so that their spouses could also be employed with a good job in the Commonwealth.
This is for efforts to reduce unemployment among veteran spouses, and there's I received some support for this earlier. Was there anyone who feels compelled to weigh in support or opposition to this piece of legislation? We've got someone online. If you could show yourself on camera, and you've got a minute to speak.
Turn on your camera and unmute yourself now.
Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, my name is Rick Dwyer, and I'm the Executive Director of the Hampton Roads Military and Federal Facilities Alliance. I'm also a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and served over 20 years on active duty. Our organization supports the best military presence here in Hampton Roads and throughout the Commonwealth, and we wish to express our strong support for House Bill 2736 and the incentivizing of employers to hire military spouses. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And that was the only online commenter? Okay. So there's a motion.
Refer to finance.
There's a motion and a second to report and refer to finance. Please vote on the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
Thank you. Okay. The queue is, we heard from, we haven't heard yet from Delegate Gardner. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Welcome.
Chair and committee. HB 1758 has an amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to adopt the amendment in nature of substitute for HB 1758. All in favor of adopting it will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that bill is surplus real property prioritization of disposition for affordable housing. Do you want to tell us more about it?
I will, and I just want to say the amendment is to maintain peace in the valley between the housing authority and the home builders. And HB 1758 seeks to prioritize the use of public lands for affordable housing developments in Virginia's urban and suburban areas. This legislation requires state and local government entities to inventory surplus and underused public land and prioritizes sales and lease or donation for affordable housing developments. Public and private partnerships will be encouraged and land trusts will be eligible for assistance. Leveraging public land for affordable housing ensures that new development can occur without high land acquisition costs that drives up housing prices. And we actually have somewhere here to speak in favor if you need.
Okay, please, thank you. Would the witness like to come forward? Mr. Boudreau, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Damus Boudreau, Virginia Housing Development Authority. We, of course, have no official position on the bill, but I will say we work closely with the delegate and all stakeholders. Everybody's on the same page, and everybody is happy and happy to answer any questions. The amendments specifically are for our ease of administrating the program.
Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in on this briefly?
Mr. Chair, Andrew Clark with the Home Builders Association of Virginia, and we strongly support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Delegate Rowan may have a question. Senator, I'm sorry. I forgot we promoted you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for any of the witnesses, probably for Andrew, from Mr. Clark. Would you be able to just speak to the public land in question here? Is this pretty much like frontal right-of-way near a sidewalk or a street, as opposed to, say, like, you know, a county park or a city park or something?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Ram, can you, I'm sorry, repeat that question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the question I have for the witness. I would ask, is this about making, does this bill deal more with the areas that would be considered right-of-way, right, public property, as opposed to, say, a community park or something that's owned by a locality?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Rim, I would answer by saying no, this is dealing with land surplused by the Department of General Services, so large tracts of land or existing buildings, and likewise for localities. So it's not going to be those slivers of right-of-ways and things like that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes,
for
Senator Rouse.
For the gentleman here. Just so I understand the substitute correctly, if a locality decides to sell surplus land to a developer or whoever purchasers, they have to develop affordable housing. They can't, like, maybe put a car wash or something on it.
Mr. Chairman, that is my understanding, Senator Rouse, and I would also add, also my further understanding, this is state-owned property that DGS would dispose of, not a locality-owned property.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, was there anyone else who was compelled to weigh in on this particular bill? Okay, is there? Let me see. This one has a. Okay, so the motion would be to refer to finance with a recommendation to report, and there's a motion and a second. Okay, so we can vote on that motion.
No, 0, 6 abstentions.
Thank you for your work with the VHDA and the administration and others in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next in the queue, I believe, is Delegate Tran and then Delegate Shin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I have two bills in front of you. Is there one you would like to
hear first? Whichever one you prefer to do first.
All right, I'll go with House Bill 2218 first. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, this bill requires landlords to accept any lawful form of payment for rent and security deposit or other required payments. This includes check, electronic funds transfer, debit or credit card, cash, and money order. Landlords must provide at least one form of payment that does not have any fees. And it also requires landlords to provide a written receipt to tenants who pay in the form of cash or money order. If you are a landlord who owns 1 to 4 units, so a smaller landlord, you can opt out of accepting debit or credit card payments. You don't have to do that if you're a smaller landlord. We worked together on this issue last year, Mr. Chairman, but constituents have come to both of us telling us that in order to pay rent, they have to pay a fee to do so, and we just want to make sure we're curbing these types of junk fees as much as possible.
And I understand there was there a substitute for this bill, or is it already, the House had, okay. So this doesn't preclude a landlord from charging a convenience fee for a credit card payment as long as they have a form of payment that is not, they take
That is
checks or
free.
otherwise.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So thank you for that. Are there anyone in the witnesses in the audience who'd like to speak in favor of this bill or otherwise? Okay, we'll come to them next. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Christy Mara with the Virginia Poverty Law Center. We want to thank the patron for introducing this legislation. We do strongly support it. We have heard from tenants across the state that they are being offered only one way to pay their rent. It is through an online portal, and they are being charged an extra fee. So this will take care of that issue.
Thank you. And we've got the AOBA as well.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Bisma Ahmed with the Apartment and Office Building Association and Virginia Apartment Management. We also support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Erin Corman with the Realtors, and we also support the bill.
Thank you. And we have someone online waiting to testify. If you could show yourself on camera, and you have up to a minute to speak.
Victoria Horick, turn on your camera and unmute yourself now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Victoria Horak, the Legal Aid Justice Center. We represent low-income tenants throughout the Central Virginia and the Commonwealth, and we regularly see tenants with this issue. They're being charged a fee. They want to just pay by check like anyone else would, but yet they're being charged a convenience fee. So we support the bill.
Thank you. Okay, I think Senator Head had a question or comment.
Mr. Chair, just to make sure I'm understanding and my colleagues over here are understanding, because if I'm understanding right, I absolutely like this bill. Right now, the situation is that there are some landlords that only allow payment through a portal, and because of that, the renter is assessed a convenience fee, and that's the only option that they have. And what this bill says is that in addition to that, you can still charge a convenience fee if you're using a credit card. You can do everything that you're doing as normal, but the only way that you can do that is if you also allow there to be some method of paying your rent where all you pay is the rent.
Yes.
And there's no fee. Understand that?
Yep.
Okay. So great bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Head. Okay, if there's no one else waiting to testify, is there a motion or questions? I don't think, was it? Okay. There's a motion and a second to report House Bill 2218. All in favor, please do so on the voting board, and otherwise indicate your preference if you oppose.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Thank you.
I do have another bill, sir.
Oh, yes, let's get to that one.
All right, House Bill 2241, and we do have 2 amendments to that. I think it turned out to be amendments, correct?
Well, and can you restate that bill number?
House Bill 2541.
Okay, 2541. This is Information Technology Access Act. If the motion, if successful, would be to report and refer to finance, and you have a substitute or?
I think they turned out as
or an
amendments.
amendment?
Amendments, sir.
Amendments. Okay, so all in favor of adopting the line amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the bill as amended is before us. Why don't you describe the bill as it's amended?
Sure, I will describe the bill and the amendments. So this issue, this is our 4th year, and it really helps to update this section of the code, which was put in place around the 90s when floppy disks were still a thing. And the way we understood technology was really around how it might impact us if we had visual disabilities. I think we can all agree that technology is ubiquitous in how we provide our government services and in also how our kids learn from K through 12 and into higher education. So what this bill does, and the amendments are, you have the handout, but amendments 1, 2, and 4 are technical so that we have the right reference to the federal applicable laws, and then Amendment 3 is a clarifying one. But what the bill does is it modernizes this section of the code to recognize that we need to be accessible to all disabilities and not just visual disabilities in using information and communication technology. And also it lines us up with federal regulations that are going to take place in the next couple of years. And so our timeline for implementation lines up exactly with the federal implementation timelines as well. We do expand covered entities to include K through 12. That is in alignment with the federal government, and also a recognition that technology is used every day in our K through 12 system. This issue came to me. I had a constituent whose son has low vision, and because of the various apps that were being used in the classroom to augment his learning, he wasn't able to fully engage with those apps. And so the teacher had to create whole different lesson plans for him. And then he was, feeling isolated and very different than his peers, and to the point where she actually ended up pulling him out of school so that he didn't have to go through this experience. So I welcome your questions.
I know we have some people who wanted to testify. I had gotten some support messages from constituents, particularly visually impaired people, and I don't know if we have one online. We have 3 online. Is there anyone in this room who wanted to testify in support? Please come forward.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Ashley Wright, representing both the ARC of Virginia and Eggleston Services. We're very grateful for the labor of love that Delegate Tran has put into this bill, and we support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And then online, I guess we have 3 folks. Were they all in support as far as we know? Okay. Why don't we do a minute each? If you could show yourself on camera, please.
Bonnie O'Day, turn on your camera and unmute yourself now. Bonnie O'Day, turn on your camera now and unmute yourself now.
Mr. Chairman, knowing that those 3 are in support of it, can I make the motion to report and refer to finance?
We have a motion, a second, but I am going to let them speak if they're available. Ms. O'Day, I don't see you on camera, but is there someone else who wanted to speak waiting? What? Okay, Ms. Morgan, we're ready to hear your testimony if you can.
Bonnie O'Day, please begin speaking now.
My name is Bonnie O'Day, and I am the legislative chair of the National Federation of the Blind of Virginia, and we support the bill. Thank you so much for all your support.
Thank you.
Corey Singleton, you may unmute yourself and begin speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Corey Singleton. I'm representing Virginia's Higher Education Accessibility Partners, or VEAP for short. VEAP is a partnership of digital accessibility professionals throughout the Commonwealth, working to ensure individuals with disabilities are provided equivalent access to information and communications technology resources like websites, documents, and those things. I'd like to thank Delegate Tran for all her work. We strongly support the bill. And look forward to continued efforts to move this forward.
Thank you.
Terry Morgan, you may begin speaking.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Terry Morgan with the Virginia Board for People with Disabilities. I would also like to thank Delegate Tran for her diligent and persistent work on this very important bill, and the Virginia Board for People with Disabilities strongly supports this bill. Thank you.
Okay, I believe that completes our testimony from the online folks. Okay, and we have a motion and a second to report and we refer to finance. Unless there's further questions from members of the panel, we can vote.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and members.
Thank you. And I'm just going to say after, I've got Delegate Irene Shin next. After her is Delegate Henson, Delegate Cole, Delegate Laura Jane Cohn, Delegate Bowling, and Delegate Bennett Parker. There's 26 people in the queue, and I'm not going to try and scroll down because last time I think I upset the order when I touched the machinery. But Delegate Shin, if you could tell us your bill number.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The bill number is HB 2779.
What is it?
2779.
2779, dealing with the New Americans Advisory Board. I think
Yes,
that we were
sir.
increasing the membership.
That's correct.
Okay. Please tell us about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This bill accomplishes three things in addressing the new Office of New Americans Advisory Board, which was first established in 2020 thanks to the efforts of Delegate Tran and Senator Hashmi. The bill in its form right now does three things. First, it expands the membership of the Office of New Americans Advisory Board from 18 to 21. Second, it adds the Secretaries of Commerce and Trade, Education, Health and Human Resources, Labor, Public Safety and Homeland Security, and Transportation to the list of ex officio non-voting members of the board. And third, it lifts the 4 meetings per year cap because right now through statute, they are limited to only 4 meetings annually, and they'd like the flexibility to be able to have more meetings if necessary. And that's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
Were there any questions, or is there anyone in the room who wants to speak up or give a thumbs up to this bill? Anyone who's opposed? Okay. There's a motion and a second to report this bill, HB 2779, that we can vote on.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Mr. Chair and members.
Thank you. Delegate Henson is next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have House Bill 2781.
Okay, we'll direct our attention to this HB 2781, please.
Thank you. House Bill 2781 adds counties with the executive form of government to the list of existing localities with the authority to create, if they so choose, an affordable dwelling unit ADU program. Counties with the executive form of government under Code Section 15.2-2304, if granted, this authority follows the passage of House Bill 2781, would have the flexibility to develop a localized approach to an ADU program to support the production of more affordable housing at low to moderate income levels.
Thank you. And right now, we've got Albemarle and Prince William in that program, as well as cities of Alexandria, Charlottesville, and Fairfax. Who is the county executive form?
So it would just add Prince William County.
Prince William?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. Were there any questions? Okay, can we hear from the county representative if you wanted to? Okay.
Hey, Glenn.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Glenn Loop, Prince William County, we strongly support the bill and thank the delegate for bringing it forward. And we have Tanya Washington, County Planning Director, online to provide some technical support.
Mr. Chairman, a question for the rep.
Yes, Senator
I just want
Rum.
to confirm that with the witness that the Board of County Supervisors voted for this. This was in their legislative agenda package.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Number one priority.
And so the online witness is Ms. Washington. If you could show yourself on camera and begin your testimony.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Tanya Washington, and I'm the Planning Director from Prince William County, and I'm also testifying in support of this bill. We thank Delegate Henson's efforts with this legislation. Prince William County currently does have authority to create an affordable dwelling unit ordinance, but under 2 other sections of the state code. And in fact, we have actually drafted an ordinance under that existing authority. However, we have found that the existing authority that we are under is very prescriptive in its approach in terms of what we can and cannot include in an affordable dwelling unit ordinance, and we ran up against those limitations during this effort. So for those reasons, we are in support of this bill, which would provide Prince William County with much more flexible authority to create an affordable dwelling unit ordinance that meets the needs of our county. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Was there anyone else who wanted to indicate support in the room or otherwise, or is there a motion? Or there's a motion to report in a second. All in favor, please vote aye on the board, and otherwise vote no.
Ayes 15, no zeros.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Okay, we've got Delegate Josh Cole. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I believe I have two bills before you today. And the first one is HB 2520. This bill would seek to establish a sexual offense prevention and response program within the Department of Military Affairs. This initiative is imperative to ensure that members of the Virginia National Guard and the Virginia Defense Force are granted access to essential victim advocacy services and a transparent process for reporting incidents of sexual assault. This bill assigns the sexual assault prevention and response officers to assist victims in the submission of restricted or unrestricted reports of sexual offenses, thereby providing them with the necessary support and resources. Furthermore, Mr. Chair, it mandates the Adjutant General to submit an annual report outlining the program's implementation and effectiveness, thereby ensuring transparency and accountability.
Thank you. Are there those in the room who wanted to indicate support, or does the Adjutant General or anyone else from the military community want to comment? Or anyone else? No one online? Okay. Are there questions or motions?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Okay, before we take our vote, Senator Reeves had a question.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think my mic's working.
Use Senator McPike's mic, and you'll be misidentified, but...
It's not working either. Mr. Chairman, Delegate, what is currently in place for the National Guard, or can the Adjutant General speak to what they currently do for sexual assaults in the National Guard with regard to folks who file a complaint of sexual assault or sexual harassment in the Guard? How do they handle that now?
I'm not sure if anyone is here to.
I'm looking at the Adjutant General, if he could, or somebody could come up from the National Guard to explain what they do now for victims of sexual assault within the National Guard.
Senator, the National Guard, which is primarily a federally funded component of our U.S. Army Reserve, does have federal programs in place. That does include federally funded positions that support sexual assault prevention programs, both at the state level, and the oversight of that comes from the federal level as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Reeves.
So, sir, before you walk off, would this be a duplication of efforts? Or would
Senator,
this be... Go ahead, sir. You were...
Yes, sir. In my assessment, the federal government does provide sufficient resources there. This would be a duplicative effort at the state level to do something that's already codified by federal regulation, of which we utilize those resources as directed by the U.S. Department of Defense.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, let me just... I don't know if my mic is working. Can you hear me? Just to follow up, the bill establishes a sexual offense prevention and response officer to perform victim advocacy services. Do you see a problem with that?
Mr. Chairman, I do not. Again, what I would share is that the federal government provides those resources with federal positions that perform those roles in Virginia, as well as all the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and our 3 territories.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments or motions? Or okay. What? Move to report and second. Emery refer to finance. Okay. So all in favor, please vote aye. Otherwise, vote no.
Ayes 11, noes 2 abstentions.
Okay. That bill reports, and then you had another bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next bill is HB 1610. This bill effectively sets a 7-year statute of limitation on actions to collect state debts, similar to protections already in place for credit debt, which falls off credit reports after 7 years.
Okay. This bill has been requested by Finance, so the motion would be to report and refer to Finance. Is there anyone who wanted to testify in support? Or anyone who's opposed to this bill who wanted to testify? Okay. Any discussion? Or I'll entertain. There's a motion to report and refer to Finance, and a second? Okay, we can vote.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you. Okay, I've got Delegate Cohn. I've got in the queue after her will be Delegate LaVere Bowling, Bennett Parker. Oh, or someone's. I think you're presenting on her behalf. Was it her behalf you're presenting on, or your own bill? Okay, so go ahead, Delegate Cohn.
A little bit of both. Thank you so much. I appreciate it today. I'm bringing you HB 1802. This was a recommendation of the Disability Commission, and it's a technical fix to better align the Code of Virginia with respect to employment service organizations and the SBSD. With this bill, it's our hope that agencies will feel more confident in making procurement practices from ESOs and will be able to collect additional data on ESO procurement. And I brought some lovely folks with me if you would like to hear from them, and then happy to answer any questions as well.
Sure. Those who are here to support the bill, why don't you come forward and tell us why you're supporting? Okay, and we'll get to them afterwards. We'll hear the online people next.
Mr. Chair, Elizabeth Parker with Troutman Strategies representing Melwood. An individual from Melwood is online to support, but I also wanted to share that both DidLake and ServiceSource support the bill, and thank the patron.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Ashley Wright representing both the Arc of Virginia and Eggleston Services, which is an ESO based in Norfolk. We heartily support the bill, and we thank Delegate Cohen for bringing it forward.
Thank you. And we have an online witness. If you could turn your camera on and begin your testimony.
Thank you. I'm Jewelyn Cosgrove, Vice President of Government and Public Relations at Melwood and a resident of Ashburn, Virginia. Melwood is a leading employer, advocate, and service provider for people with disabilities with operations in Arlington, Virginia, and 60 employees across the Commonwealth, including 42 with significant disabilities. We support HB 1802 and thank Delegate Cohen for patroning the bill, because we understand that access to procurement opportunities through employment service organizations supports job creation for people with disabilities, and this is a workforce tool that is sitting right under our noses. The bill is a technical fix to address confusion that has led to underutilization of this authority, and we urge the committee to support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we've heard about the bill. Unless there are questions or further, there's a motion and a second to report HB 1802. All in favor, please vote aye. Those opposed, vote otherwise.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so our next delegate present in the room is Delegate Bennett Parker, my delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is House Bill 1973. And it adds a tool in the toolbox to help us address Virginia's affordable housing crisis. This is a permissive bill for localities that addresses rental buildings that have received state or federal assistance to create affordable units, for example, through the Low Income Housing Tax Credit or LIHTC program. When those affordability restrictions are expiring after 40 years for LIHTC, and the owner intends to sell the building, the bill would allow localities to establish a right of first refusal if and only if they can match a third-party offer and have previously adopted an ordinance under this section. The owner receives the same purchase price and the housing remains affordable. If the locality cannot provide a matching offer, the owner sells to a third party. These are buildings that have already received public assistance from taxpayers, so this is a simple way to make sure that our state and federal investments in affordable housing continue to benefit Virginians. More than 7,000 publicly supported affordable rental units are at risk of losing their affordability in the next 5 years, and that number quadruples to almost 30,000 in the next 10. We have an affordable housing crisis with these units, and we cannot afford to lose them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So these are buildings that have already received public assistance from taxpayers, and this just helps them maintain themselves as affordable housing if they just, after that period has elapsed?
Yes, after that period has elapsed and if the building is going to be sold.
Okay. Are there questions for Delegate Bennett Parker or those in the room who'd like to speak in support? Yeah. Okay, we'll come to them next. Come forward, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Isabel McLean with Virginia Housing Alliance, and we very much support the bill and thank the patron for bringing it. We think it's really important that we give our localities in Virginia some tools to preserve our affordable housing and prevent displacement. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Christy Marrow with the Virginia Poverty Law Center. We also strongly support the bill for all the reasons stated by the previous speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we get to our online person, my understanding is this doesn't require anyone to take any offer that's, they match the price that's offered, so no one's going to lose any money over this. They just have to have the opportunity to preserve it as affordable after the original period expired. Okay, so our online witness, if you want to unmute yourself and show yourself on camera.
Victoria Horick, you may now speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Victoria Horak, Legal Aid Justice Center, and we support the bill for all the reasons previously stated.
Thank you. Okay. If there are no questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion. Okay. There's a motion and a second to report HB 1973. We can vote on the board.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Okay, that bill reports. Next, we've got Delegate Price to be followed by Delegates Willett, Thomas, Walker, and Anthony in that order. Delegate Price, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have House Bill 1718, which is identical to a bill that both Senator Aird and I carried last year. We are trying to get it back to the governor, hopefully for a different outcome this time, but basically would allow for localities to have more involvement in helping protect their residents and fight slumlords against any of the violations against the health and safety code.
This is similar to the bill that we passed uncontested last year, including unanimously in this committee.
It is the exact.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion, a second. Unless there's questions or people who want it, were there people waiting to give a thumbs up or? Okay, I see thumbs ups. Okay, there's a motion, a second to report. Indicate your preference on the voting board, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, I've got Delegate Willett to be followed by Delegate Thomas. I don't see Delegate Willett, so we'll go to Delegate Thomas, and then in the queue, I've got Delegates Walker, Anthony, and Bagans. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is House Bill 2065. And it is the cognate-ish of Senate Bill 1282, which passed the Senate unanimously. They only have minor, well, what I view as technical changes between the two, but essentially both bills incentivize localities to change to the new fire reporting system, NERIS.
Okay, and I just want to ask Council, do we need, there's no conflict between those two bills? They can both exist?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, hold on here. It should be 1282, I think. That's
okay. So this is the one that requires the emergency incidents reporting with the federal system.
Correct.
And it has a delayed effective date.
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second.
Conform, it's fine.
There's a motion and a second to report. We can vote on the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, next we've got is Delegate Walker here? Delegate Willett? Delegate Anthony? I feel like I'm doing an auction or something. Delegate Fagans? I see Delegate, oh, no, that's not a delegate. Former delegate. Delegate Carlson is here, right? Yes. Okay, welcome. Come forward.
Thank you, Chairman. This is actually, I hope, a pretty simple bill. In short, I had a constituent who came up to me, and they were a lawyer who was helping. Is this on?
Can I ask the bill number?
Yes, you can. 2431.
Okay, 2431. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, speaking to the bill, so it's a simple, hopefully a simple fix. I had a lawyer that was providing a law reader. He was having a student who was supervising the law reader program, and they went to get the certification, and they discovered that although she had a master's and a doctorate from a U.S.-based institution, because she did not have a bachelor's, the letter of the law is you have to have a bachelor's from a U.S.-based institution. And so they asked me to bring this bill to fix that, and it seemed reasonable to me because certainly if you can do a master's or a doctorate at a U.S.-based institution, then that's equivalent or better than a bachelor's.
Okay. Did you have any witnesses who wanted to weigh in? Otherwise, we can.
No, I don't think. The Bar Association, I think, worked.
The Bar Association was in support.
They weren't against. Yeah, right there.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. There's a motion and a second to report HB 2431. Please indicate your preference on the voting board. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee.
I've got Delegate Wiley is in the room, I believe.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is House Bill 1835 in front of you. Everybody ready? Thank you. Mr. Chairman, this bill establishes framework and requirements for Virginia's licensed professional geologists. The same requirements for Virginia's voluntary certification, same standards of professional ethics and code of conduct for Virginia's voluntary certification. The board shall issue a license to practice as a geologist in the Commonwealth to any individual who holds an unexpired certification to practice as a geologist issued prior to July 1st, 2025. Geologists, as we know, are critical to the health safety, specifically safety. That's pretty much how we're driving this bill, and welfare of both the public and the environment across the Commonwealth. Currently, 32 states have some form of licensure for professional geologists. Virginia is the only one of these states that has a voluntary certification program. I do have some folks that can speak to this if there's any further questions.
It's pretty straightforward.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I do have a question.
Yes, please.
Delegate Wiley. I know geologists have their faults, but in there's some language in the bill about a penalty of a Class 1 misdemeanor, and I was just curious, is this the standard for licensure violation?
It's my understanding, Mr. Chairman. Delegate, we have to hold these folks accountable in some form or fashion, considering they're responsible for testing the dirt, for example, for this building to make sure it's sound. So there is a penalty that needs to be enforced.
Speaking to the bill at the appropriate time after his witnesses, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Senator Locke says we're going down a rocky road. Okay. I'm attributing that to her. Okay, so this is a pretty straightforward bill about the licensure to practice geology. Are there any other compelling questions or any? Excuse me? Okay. So, Senator Aird, did you want to make your comment before we hear from other witnesses?
Yeah, no, I went after the witnesses is fine.
Okay. Is there any, did you want to come forward to speak, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris McDonald with Williams Mullen on behalf of the Association of Environmental and Engineering Geologists. Very briefly, I just want to thank the patron. This is fundamentally about safety and holding our own industry to the highest standards possible. This is also supported by the American Institute of Professional Geologists, Association of State Boards of Geology, Home Builders Association of Virginia, Virginia Water Well Association, Virginia Water Environment Association, Virginia Association of Professional Soil Scientists, and the Virginia section of American Water Works Association. We hope to support the bill.
Just to follow on Senator Aird's question, is Class 1 misdemeanor standard for other people practicing without a license in other similar fields?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. Anybody with a licensure under D4 is subject to the Class 1 misdemeanor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cushing.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Patrick Cushing on behalf of the American Council of Engineering Companies. Many of the geologists are work for our company, so we support the bill. Encourage you to vote for it. Thank you.
Was there anyone online or anyone else who had a comment? Okay. So
I just wanted to, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Rouse.
Just wanted to say I agree with the sentiments that has been said here today.
Okay, we've gotten that all away. Well, now,
Mr. Chair,
Senator Aird.
having heard from the witnesses, I don't think we should take for granted the work of our geologists. They seem to be doing important tasks here, and so for the health and safety of our Commonwealth, I hope we move this bill forward.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Rouse.
I agree with Senator Aird and her comments she made, but we can dig up some more issues with this bill, but I would second that motion.
Okay, it's a motion and a second to report. Please indicate your preference on the voting board. You're getting roasted. I think people are competing to get the blooper reel.
I just better keep my mouth shut, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My delegate here can crawl back under his rock here, and we can continue on with business here today. But so I was advised to keep it short and sweet. So we're trying to keep the barbers happy and the women looking pretty. So I know flattery gets you nowhere. Are you ready? But
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
2669, was that the bill?
It's getting late. We got to have a little fun here.
We've got a lot ahead of us still.
So HB 2669 comes at the recommendation of the Board of Barbers and Cosmetologists. This bill seeks to amend the definition of the cosmetologist and cosmetology to clarify cosmetic treatments that are not included in such definitions. This bill ensures that professionals are only perform services which are properly trained for. For example, current law allows cosmetologists to perform straight razor shaves, which is a barbering practice without training. Current code poses risk to the public health, safety, and creates confusion about who can perform what treatments. The proposed changes narrowly define the scope of cosmetologists and provides clarity between the professions in order to protect the health and safety of the public. That, Mr. Chairman and committee members, is a bill before you, and I do have somebody maybe online to speak to it if you like.
Okay, would the witness online please show yourself on camera and unmute yourself now if you're ready to testify?
Jonathan Malul, unmute yourself and turn on your camera.
Welcome. You've got a minute, if you could, to offer your testimony.
Jonathan Malul, please speak now. Jonathan Malul, please speak now.
I guess we're having some audio difficulty. If you can hear us, you should testify now, or we're getting ready to pass this bill.
Hello.
Yes.
My name is Jonathan Malul. I'm the CEO of Savon Malul International Hair Academy in Lynchburg, Virginia. I am here today to advocate for HB 2669 and respectfully request your support for this bill. The definition before you outlines the scope of practice for licensed cosmetologists in Virginia. As it is currently written, it states that cosmetologists can perform straight razor shaving and other advanced aesthetic services. However, this presents a significant issue. Over 17,000 licensed cosmetologists are legally authorized to perform services they have not been trained or tested on, and that they do not historically or industry-wide perform. This creates a serious public health and safety risk. For example, a licensed cosmetologist could legally perform a straight razor shave and risk cutting someone's neck or jugular because they lack the necessary training and testing. Barbers, on the other hand, are specifically trained, tested, and recognized as the appropriate professionals for this service. This issue came to light in September 2024. DPOR reduced cosmetology training hours from 1,500 hours to 1,000. I have since collaborated with the DPOR board for barbers and cosmetology to develop the amended definition before you.
Thank you
This
for your
amendment received unanimous
testimony,
support
sir.
from a special
Our
regulatory review
time limit
commission
is elapsed, but we
designed
appreciate
for
your
this
support.
issue specifically. And with some
Thank you. Okay. I think the bill's pretty straightforward.
Yes, sir.
Is there, was there any opposition from anyone? No? Okay. There's a motion and a second to report the bill. Let's vote on the board.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Delegate.
Mr. Chairman, committee members.
Okay. Delegate Paul Krizak, please come forward, and then we'll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
back
members
to
of the
our-
committee. 2493, House Bill 2493. So, as you all know, we've had the laws in gaming in Virginia for the age to bet or kind of have been all over the map. And over the years, we've raised the age to 21 for the HHR machines. We did that a couple years ago, and we have right now we have casinos where you can play poker, but you have to be 21. And you can go online and you can play sports. You can sports bet, but you have to be 21. So this just aligns the age requirements for these other two types of gambling, which is fantasy sports, which is also online, but it's 18. And I also note that fantasy sports is not paying anything into problem gambling, but that's a bill for another day. But you got 18 for fantasy sports online, or you can go 21 and play regular sports betting. And then you've got poker in the casinos, which is 21, or you can play Texas Hold'em tournaments, which are now being licensed by VDAX and be 18. 33 states have Texas Hold'em poker tournaments, and it's 21 in all those 33 states. So anyway, that's what the bill does. Pretty simple.
Thank you. So it aligns us at a 21 year requirement to gamble in those two areas. The other states, you said there's no other states that you can play poker at that age, or?
They all, at the 33 states that have Texas Hold'em poker tournaments, it's all 21 years old.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion, a second to report. Is there anyone who was waiting to testify on this bill, 2493?
No,
Okay.
and Mr. Chair, if I can just speak into the bill, I want to thank Delegate Krizak for all of his work with the stakeholders. I can remember our time in the House late night committees when we lifted the prohibitions on so many of these things, and I think this sort of organizes what our intentions are in a way that's deeply required, and so I move that we report the bill.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to report 2493. All in favor, please vote aye. Otherwise, vote no. Senator French wants me to speak about this on the floor, so I'll need your notes.
Ayes 13, no 1 abstention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that bill reports. Was that
Thank
your?
you, Senator.
That was
That's
your.
it.
Okay.
No, the other three you sent on to
Yes, we
finance.
took care of.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I've got in the queue Delegate Fagans, Runyon, Freitas, Cousins, and Simon. I don't know if Delegate Simon is back for more. There's 14 people. I can only see the top 6 or so.
Cousin says she has a bill up.
Would they correct? Okay, we'll hear from you now, and then we'll hear from Delegate Cousins because she's got another bill elsewhere.
Hello, committee and Chairman. HB 2751 adds military family-owned businesses to the Virginia Public Procurement Act. HB 2751 ensures military family-owned businesses, a term recognized in the Virginia Human Rights Act, receive the same anti-discrimination protections in public contract procurement as small, women-owned, and minority-owned businesses. Currently, Virginia already prohibits discrimination in public contracting based on race, religion, sex, and disability, and service-disabled veteran status. For those unfamiliar with military family-owned businesses, that would include active duty service members, reservists, veterans, and dependents financially supported and within 180 days. Military family-owned businesses would require to be 51% owned by the military family member. This hopes to close the gap in ensuring that not only just service-disabled veterans, but also military families, businesses are not discriminated against. There's no fiscal impact, and this is endorsed by the Department of Defense State Liaison Office. I ask that you support.
Thank you. Were there any questions, or is there anyone here who was waiting to testify on this bill? Okay. Entertain a motion or comments? Okay. It's been moved and seconded that HB 2751 be reported. Please indicate your preference to the voting board. Thank you.
Thank you, committee members.
Okay. Then I think Delegate Cousins had another committee, so we're going to take you next, and then we'll get back to our queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. And also hello to members of the committee. So I have up HB 2229. And this bill passed the House and the Senate last year. This year we added language in subsection I, just to reiterate that this code section does not affect unlawful detainer provisions in the code. So the Virginia Residential Landlord Tenant Act requires that landlords maintain safe and habitable rental properties, but all too often families are living in homes with serious maintenance issues that impact their health and safety, which go ignored and unfixed by their landlords. However, under court's interpretation of the current statute, tenants cannot file a suit to address these conditions unless they are current on their rent, regardless of how much they owe. In practice, some clerks do not allow tenants to file actions after the 5th of the month to avoid running afoul of this requirement. And this denies tenants access to the court system, and it forces tenants to wait weeks living in unhealthy and unsafe housing conditions before they can address the issue in court. So this bill removes the requirement that tenants be current on their rent to file a tenant's assertion. This change will only apply when a tenant is making an affirmative action against a landlord for failing to meet safe housing standards. This bill does not apply to unlawful detainer or eviction cases, nor does the bill change any existing requirements that tenants must pay rent into escrow upon filing an assertion and during the pendency of the action. This bill essentially strengthens tenants' ability to access the judicial system, and it is supported by the Office of the Executive Secretary.
To report, is there anyone who was waiting, wants to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down or speak? Okay, so I can see some thumbs up. Unless there's other testimony online, I think we can proceed to, or questions, we can proceed to vote.
A lot of naysayers.
Ayes 10, noes 5.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I guess we've got Delegate Runyon and the Delegate Freitas. Delegate Runyon, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 2246. I believe there's a line amendment.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for a line amendment on this bill relating to funerals. All in favor of the line amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, could the clerk just tell us what the line amendment did or was?
Mr. Chair, on line 40, after purposes, insert pursuant to section 54.1-2811.1.
Okay, so we're just making a technical amendment. Okay.
Yes,
why don't you tell us about your bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What we have is a compassionate clarification. This is a bill that clarifies and establishes clear parameters when there's a disagreement among next of kin of the disposition of someone that's deceased. We allow for the actions to occur for 30 days in the absence of a court order or other agreements. After 30 days, then the funeral home can proceed with the hierarchy of the appropriate next of kin for disposition.
And I understand this was worked out with the funeral directors and...
Yes, sir. We have 4 different groups that agreed, and everybody, there is peace in the valley.
Great. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, first Senator Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question for the patron. I would just ask the patron, like, what sort of disagreements are we normally associating that come up where a bill like this is necessary?
They can be different things relating to, let's say, example of burial versus cremation, or timing, or it's a really stressful situation and not everybody's got these things planned out exactly well. And what we've had happen is funeral homes kind of get caught in the middle. And we've had some folks that were held and unable to have their final disposition, their final remains done until either the court addressed it or families. I do have Mr. Johnson here. He's available to answer more technical questions on this.
Please, if you wanted to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, Scott Johnson on behalf of Services Corporation International. Senator Rome, the delegate is right. You got a situation where mom dies, brother comes in and says, I want mom buried. Mom doesn't have a will. Mom didn't say what she wanted to do. And then sister comes in and sister says, I think we ought to cremate mom. And you've got that disagreement. The funeral establishment has got mom's remains. And last year, y'all passed the legislation to let the 2 siblings go to court and get a petition and work it out or reach an agreement. This takes it to the next step to say after 30 days, if nobody's gone to court or worked out an agreement, how you proceed. And so basically this would say at that point in time, whoever came in and asked for the arrangements, that's what you would do.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Follow-up question for the witness then. Would that then give leverage to one of the 2 disputing parties in that case, where basically the issue that could come up in this case is that if someone just will not come to an agreement, right, through obstinance or whatever else, is this going to create a situation where one family is just going to kind of walk away because they know that they're going to be able to get the funeral home to do what they want versus the other one?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Rome, what you passed last year would give the ability of any disgruntled family member to be able to go petition the court and say, court, you sort it out. And that would prevent somebody from, in essence, running the table and being overcome. If they choose not to go to court, and if they choose not to ask the judge to make the agreement, then we're back to a situation where the funeral home has the remains, and the law currently says basically the first next of kin that comes in and makes the arrangements, says they want to do this, that's what the funeral home would follow. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions, are there motions?
Move to report.
A motion and a second to report. Please vote on the board.
Thank you, Chair, members.
Thank you. Okay, I've got Delegate Freitas next in the queue to be followed by Delegate Simon. Just speak loud. We can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. HB 193 is essentially designed to require Congress to declare war before they deploy the Virginia National Guard to overseas combat operations. Nothing in this bill would take away any of the responsibilities or authorities that the governor currently has, nor that the federal government currently has. But the problem, as I see it at this point, is we find ourselves in a situation that the last time Congress declared war was about 83 years ago. That is not the last time we went to war. And we're increasingly find ourselves in a situation where men and women are being asked to go and fulfill their obligation to the Constitution, where Congress is not willing to fulfill its obligation to the Constitution. And so this is, I think, a fairly simple effort to just simply say, if you're going to take that additional step to deploy the Virginia National Guard in overseas combat operations, then Congress needs to declare war before they do so. I'm happy to take any additional questions from the committee.
Okay, I know that we have, Senator Rome, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the patron. So basically what I'm trying to figure out from the language on this is, because we're dealing with federal orders, if we were to enact this, is this basically merely symbolic within the Code of Virginia? Because wouldn't the executive at that point still have the authority to call up members of the military, including National Guard, regardless of the Code of Virginia?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure there's a symbolic aspect to it, but I still think that this is something that would, at the very least, cause there to be a lawsuit, cause there to be standing essentially to question whether or not the federal government had the authority to deploy guardsmen in overseas combat operations. It is clear that the federal government doesn't have unlimited authority with respect to activating the Guard. But I do think taking this additional step to say that the position of the Commonwealth of Virginia is this is what we require, because this is ultimately what the Constitution requires.
I see that we have the Adjutant General, Major General Ring here, and I'd like to ask if he would like to comment on this and its potential impact.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Reeves.
As the General comes forward, could you also have, General, can you talk about Title 32, Title 10, and Section 502, and how you all are dispatched according to those different sections to help Senator Rome understand the the complexity of the duties on how you guys delineate what is what?
Mr. Chairman, yes, sir. The National Guard is primarily a federally funded force in accordance with our U.S. Federal Code. When in dwell, we dwell within a U.S. Code, Title 32 Federal Code, which takes that federally funded manned and equipped force and places it under the authority of a governor. But that is only to man, equip, and train to do the global employments that we do. The federal government can, at the direction of the command authority and also Congress, deploy the National Guard globally at the call of the nation, as we have in the Virginia Guard since World War I, and frankly, since 9/11, with thousands of National Guard deployments around the globe. The concern with this legislation is that any restriction on the federal mobilization of the National Guard for global operations puts the Virginia National Guard force structure at risk of being transferred to another National Guard state or to the U.S. Army Reserves or the U.S. Air Force Reserves. The reason for that, again, is we have an obligation to meet that federal role and that federal mission. So if we're not available to do that, and the National Guard is part of our total Department of Defense, makes up over 40% of our total Army and our total Air Force Combat Reserve. And so if the Commonwealth were to put state language to restrict that use, frankly, the federal government would be at will to transfer those personnel authorizations. That's over 9,000 Army and Air National Guard positions. Our military equipment, that's over $1 billion in federally provided military equipment that we, the Commonwealth, rely on when and dwell to be at the call of the governor to perform emergency response operations, whether that's floods, hurricanes, or snowstorms, as we have National Guard personnel right now on state active duty. This language, which is commonly known as the Defend the Guard Act, so it has a positive name for that. It has been introduced and also defeated in over 30 states around our nation, and there is no adjutant general of any of the 50 states, nor the District of Columbia and our 3 territories that support the Defend the Guard Act language. So, Mr. Chairman, I remain available for any other questions.
Any further questions? Okay, I'm going to go first to Senator Williams-Graves, and then Senator Van Valkenburg, and then to Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much for giving us all of that information and helping folks to understand how the National Guard works. Had the opportunity to visit, I think the years run together. It was either this year or last year, and it is an incredible organization that you all have, and you do very good work. I believe that while well-intentioned and well-named, that this bill will do more harm than good. So at the appropriate time, Mr. Chair, I would move to pass this bill by indefinitely.
Okay, we'll come back to that motion. And Senator Van Valkenburg? Okay, so Senator Reeves, did you want to speak before we take action?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just I want to speak briefly to the bill. I know both these gentlemen very, very well, and I know they're both combat veterans, and I know they understand what it is to take the oath of office to support and defend the Constitution, and I absolutely agree with the premise to which Delegate Freitas has brought this bill forward, and I know the Adjutant General also agrees with that. The challenge that we have is we're not in charge of Congress, and that is, I think, the overlooming issue, and my concern is as much as I'd like to move this bill forward, to send a message, I don't want to put at risk our opportunities and our abilities to respond to natural disasters like we had to face here, or get out to the island where we can't get there because we don't have any helicopters. So I don't know if we have the right issue or not, but I just wanted to make that statement.
Mr. Chairman, might I be before the last word?
Freitas, did you want to wrap up?
Thank you. I understand the concern with respect to putting funding and equipment at risk. I'm tired of our sons and daughters being put at risk. I know what it is to go to war. The chief co-patron of this bill, Delegate Helmer, knows what it is to go to war. We know what it is to go to war. You know what we don't know what it is? To have Congress declare war before they send us. I just dropped my son off. He's at MEPS right now. He's shipping off to Fort Benning, Georgia. He'll go through infantry basic, then he'll go through airborne, then he'll go through ranger assessment. Nothing in this bill helps him. He's active duty. We have a robust active duty force, which is still at the full disposal of the executive branch when it comes to conducting limited combat operations overseas. I just want to know at what point do we take any measure whatsoever to tell the federal government that Congress should display an ounce of the courage that they require out of the men and the women that they're going to go over there to trade everything. The men and women in uniform are upholding their obligation to the Constitution. Congress is failing, and nothing has changed. This is an opportunity to do something about it. I hope it'll be the will of the body to look favorably upon the bill.
Thank you for your presentation. Okay, there was a motion and a second to PBI the bill. We will vote on the board.
Ayes 10, noes 5.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Okay, I believe that next in the queue was Delegate Simon, and on deck is Delegate Austin, Delegate Singh, Delegate McClure, and Delegate Maldonado. I'm going to turn over to Senator McPike while I go to present a bill elsewhere.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got 3 bills. I guess probably makes sense to go in numerical order. First is House Bill 2039. And I think there's some line amendments that the chairman has on this one. Idea is to get DCJS to establish a model policy for the use of encrypted telecommunications.
Is your motion on the amendments? All right, there's a motion and a second for the amendments. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, amendments properly before us. Delegate Simon.
Yep. So again, we asked DCJS to work in consultation with the FOIA Council and the Virginia Statewide Interoperability Executive Committee to come up with a model policy for the encryption of routine radio communications. The problem we're trying to solve here, it used to be you could listen on the police scanner. I was actually a journalist, Alan Etter, some of you may know that name from listening to WTOP, reached out to me and was frustrated that he'd get reports from people stuck in traffic and stuck behind roadblocks and motorcades and things like that. And he had no idea what was going on, couldn't report it on the news, tell people to avoid the route because Arlington had immediately just encrypted all of their radio communications in a blanket way. And so what he'd like to do is see if there's a way to only encrypt things that are sensitive and need to be encrypted and leave unencrypted things that would be helpful for traffic reporters and members of the media, members of the public to know about so you can keep traffic flowing. And that's what the bill's, so we're not telling DCJS what the outcome should be. We're not even saying it should be, I previously had an amendment that said with the interest of transparency in mind, we're not even saying that. Just saying let's give some guidelines so local folks that have this new technology It allows them to encrypt all their radio communications, know when and where, and the best way to use it.
Questions of the patron?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a quick question.
Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate, as a former law enforcement guy, we used to use 10 codes to keep the general public from listening to everything on a scanner. Is this going to cause localities to have to buy more equipment to change their, I'm not up to speed on their telecommunications and how a lot of those encrypted systems work for Fairfax or Prince William. So can maybe you elaborate a little bit on what that's going to look?
So, Mr. Chairman, Senator Reeves, I would say that this wouldn't require anybody to buy anything new. This would be a model policy, right? So it wouldn't be mandatory. I know it would affect potentially if you deviate too much from model policy, it affects your certification and your credentialing. But generally, it's just to give some guidelines for folks that are using the encrypted technology to know how and when to use it. It wouldn't require. I don't imagine it would require encryption or require encryption technology or upgrading anything. It's just for those folks that have it. The idea would be when do you deploy it and which situations would you not want to deploy it?
Mr. Chairman, just quick follow-ups. Delegate Simon, is DCJS on board with this?
DCJS had a budget amendment. They said they want to hire a consultant to bring in to help do this work, but that they're capable of doing the work. And in the House budget, there was money put forward to meet their budget requirements. So their only concern was whether they could afford the experts to help them do this.
Got it.
And we funded that in the House budget.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, if this reports it does need to go to finance, are there members in the audience that have opposition to House Bill 2039? Any in support?
Move to report and re-refer to finance.
All right, there's a motion and a second as amended. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
All right, that bill reports. Next bill.
Next bill is House Bill 2110. It has to do with resale disclosure certificates. So when you go to sell your house, if you live in a homeowners association or a condo, you've got to provide a resale disclosure certificate to the buyer. The most convenient way to do that is to order it when you're thinking about putting your house on the market. So you can have that resale disclosure certificate, you deliver it to the buyer, and that starts their 3-day cancellation period right away. Problem is that some associations have been saying, we're not going to give you your certificate until we know who the buyer is. Like, well, I want to get my certificate before I know who the buyer is so I can give it to them with the contract. And what this says is the association cannot require you to give the name of a buyer before releasing the resale disclosure certificate. Now, what's happening in real life is, I'll tell you from the realtors I work with, and maybe Senator Williams-Graves will have this experience, like, thank goodness I don't have to have my brother-in-law buy 3 more houses this month, right? Because they'd make up a name to try and get the certificate early. This says, let's not play that game. Let's just give them the certificate when they ask for it.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions of the patron? Any opposition to House Bill 2110 that was uncontested in the House and does not need to go to finance? There's a motion to report and a second. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 15, no zeros.
All right, that bill reports. Next bill, Delegate.
Next bill is House Bill 2430, and I think there's an amendment requested by Chairman.
All right, is a motion on the amendment? All right, this motion and a second. All in favor of adopting the amendment, say aye. Aye. The amendment's before us.
Yeah, and so, Mr. Chairman, what the amendment does is makes it clear that the application of this is prospective only. And what the bill does is it requires, so it takes a tweak. We already required, under current law, I think a bill we passed about 2 or 3 years ago, a description of any rent and fees to be charged to the tenant in addition to the periodic rent. That was sort of very vague language, and so this just tightens that up a little bit and says we want an itemization of all the charges to the tenant that comprise, and then it gives you the list of things: the security deposit, the amount of rent due, other one-time charges. So it really is. This has been requested by the Apartment Office Building Owners Association. They said we tried to develop a form in accordance with the old statute, and the form itself got to be longer than the lease. And if you guys would just tighten up this language, it'll be a more usable form for both consumers and for housing providers.
Any opposition to House Bill 2430? All right, there's a motion and a second to report. Clerk, open the roll. As amended.
Ayes 11, noes 4.
All right, that bill reports. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.
All right, next up we have Delegate Austin, followed by Delegate Singh, followed by McClure. Delegate Austin.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Today I have before you HB 2642, counterfeit lighters. Mr. Chair, HB 2642 addresses consumer safety concerns by regulating and prohibiting the sale of unsafe and counterfeit lighters in the Commonwealth. The bill creates a definition for lighters, unsafe lighters, and counterfeit lighters to protect consumers from hazardous products. In 2017, more than 300 million lighters were imported from China and other countries. 70% of the lighters failed to meet safety standards requiring child-resistant mechanisms. HB 2642 regulates the sale of lighters by defining unsafe lighters as those who fail to meet the American Society for Testing Materials, ASTM, International Standard F400-20, which specifies consumer safety standards. And defining a counterfeit lighter as any device which infringes upon intellectual property of United States citizens or entities protected under the federal and state regulatory intellectual properties. U.S. companies include BIC, Zip, Cricket, Scripto, and Calico, and Beacon. That's the bill, Mr. Chair.
All right, is there any opposition to House Bill 2642? There's a motion and a second to report. Clerk, open the roll.
No to China. No to China.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 1922 codifies the provision of two executive orders by governors. First it was McAuliffe, then it was Northam. We are living under those executive orders right now, and what we would like to do is to have it codified. It establishes, and what that does is it'll establish the small women minority-owned procurement enhancement program with the Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity with the statewide goal of 46% utilization in discretionary spending for all small businesses and procurement orders, prime contracts, and subcontracts, and a target goal of 50% subcontracting certified businesses when the prime contractor is not a small business owner. You may have remembered this bill passed last year, and the governor wanted a little time to study it again. During the interim, we met, we studied. There was nothing new found with this. We are in the middle of a study period, which will be every 5 years. We'll go back and look at how things are going and if we really need it. We're in that period right now, and we're hoping that, because we all know that small businesses are the backbone of everything. And what we want to do is make sure we put it in the code. We don't have to keep doing another executive order, another governor, another executive order. If we know it works, we just ask that it's codified.
Thank you. Any opposition to House Bill 1922 that has to go to Senate Finance? All right, there's a motion and a second to report and refer to Finance. Clerk, open the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, do you mind if I allow those who've been here all day?
Yes,
just
please.
waiting for this opportunity to stand?
Yes,
These are
please.
supporters of the bill.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, next up, Delegate Carr, you have a number of bills. We had bypassed one earlier, so we can come back to that one as well. So you've got a few.
Would you like for me to just take them in order?
Yep,
Mr.
just take them in
Chairman?
order. That'd be great.
All right.
Thank you, Delegate.
So our first one, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, is HB 2149, which implements a recommendation from a 2021 JLARC study of the Commonwealth's affordable housing needs. It creates a pilot incentive grant program administered by the Department of Housing and Community Development. Localities who modify their zoning ordinances to facilitate the development of more affordable housing will be eligible for grants to help facilitate affordable housing production, or for other uses such as schools, libraries, emergency response, stormwater, and some transportation projects. This bill acknowledges that statewide zoning mandates may not be effective for every locality and instead seeks to encourage localities to adopt currently available but underutilized zoning ordinance. It offers a carrot rather than the stick approach. There is a House budget amendment for the pilot program. Hope it will be the pleasure of the committee to pass the bill.
All right, questions of the delegate? Opposition to House Bill 2149?
Got to go to finance.
It does have to go to finance. And we have people that want to give thumbs ups. We got like 8 thumbs ups. Outstanding. All right, there's a motion and a second to report and re-refer. And opposition? Sorry. I didn't see.
No thumbs down.
All right. There's a motion to report and re-refer to finance. Clerk, open the roll. All right, next up, Delegate, this bill reports.
Thank you, sir. HB 2150. 2150 allows public bodies to adopt a provision in their procurement policies and procedures that states that technology goods and services contracts cannot contain terms inconsistent with Virginia law. Basically, the aim of HB 2150 is to adapt state procurement law for the modern world of information technology contracting, in which companies often offer software or services throughout the country, the world, under standard terms, and it's not always possible to negotiate terms specific to Virginia. It also provides a path forward in situations where it's not possible to negotiate terms, and it also enacts a clear statutory statement of basic legal rules and apply it going forward. This legislation will not affect the procurement and contracting beyond IT, which is the category of procurement in which the problems addressed by this legislation are most acute, and it will not affect the many companies who already have terms compatible with Virginia law or are willing to negotiate terms with Virginia public bodies. Retroactively, it will not affect existing contracts, and it will not change procurement authority between public bodies, and it will not change what Virginia public bodies may agree to. There's no fiscal impact of this bill. However, potential fiscal benefit may occur. Streamlining and facilitating procurement for the modern world of standard terms is likely to produce benefits.
Thank you.
I can go on.
Any opposition? Thank you. Any opposition to House Bill 2150? All right, we have someone who would like to speak to it online. State your name and don't slow down the train.
Timothy Wyatt, turn on your camera and unmute yourself now.
Hi, my name is Timothy Wyatt. I'm representing Virginia Local Government IT Executives, or ValGuide. ValGuide is an organization of more than 100 localities across the Commonwealth dedicated to addressing challenges in technology management and procurement. House Bill 2150 is a critical solution helping local governments reduce risk and protect taxpayer dollars. A key issue we face.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the testimony. Any opposition to House Bill 2150? The appropriate motion would be to report. It does not need to go to finance. This motion and a second to report 2150. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next up you have
HB 2151 concerning Community Land Trust. This is simply a technical cleanup bill that amends the code to reflect.
Delegate, please continue.
HB 2152 is a good shorty. HB 2152 simply requires attorneys who are serving as public bodies, FOIA officers. All right.
Try not to stop the train.
2151.
Where are we?
Residential Landlord and Tenant Act.
Are you on Community Land Trust, 2151?
2151.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm, 2151 is a technical cleanup bill that amends the code to reflect how community land trusts are actually operating. Community land trusts are different from other nonprofit affordable housing entities. They make more affordable housing available since they maintain ownership of the land while the price on the home on the land remains stable and affordable. Currently requiring corporate membership for CLTs as defined by any adult resident in a geographical area creates practical and financial burdens for the CLTs. Some CLTs cover a large geography. For example, the Maggie Walker CLT in Richmond operates in the city of Richmond and the counties of Chesterfield and Henrico. It would be practically impossible to communicate what that work is about to all residents in the metropolitan area and to allow all residents to be members of the CLT and have the ability to elect the board of directors. It is unclear how such a vote would be structured. CLTs take very seriously their...
We got it.
Okay.
We have one, any opposition in the room to 2151 that reported out 98-1 in the House. There's someone that's joined us online. If you could state your name and support or opposition.
Erica Sims, turn on your camera and
10
unmute yourself
seconds.
now.
9.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm the CEO for the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust, and I am in support of this bill.
Thank you so much. That was perfect. There's a motion to report. 2151. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
That bill reports. Next up, you have 2152, and if this reports, it has to go to Finance. Delegate.
2152 goes to Finance.
52.
Simply requires attorneys who are serving as public bodies FOIA officers to receive FOIA training, as is required of non-attorney FOIA officers. Hope it be the pleasure.
All right. We have one person online. This bill is moving forward. They lowered the hand. God bless them. All right, this motion and a second report and refer to Finance. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
All right, that bill reports, and your next up is House Bill 2163, and if that reports, it has to go to Finance.
2153.
2163, yes, ma'am.
2163.
All right, I have 2153 and 54 also.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Which ones do you want me to take?
Keep it going in the numbers you have, so 21.
2153 is nonprofit housing. HB 2153 enables localities to pass ordinances to simplify the process for property tax exempt nonprofits, including faith communities, to build multifamily affordable housing on their land. The bill also asks localities to incorporate strategies in comprehensive plans that would support property tax exempt nonprofits building housing. Finally, it allows the Department of Housing and Community Development to provide potential strategies for both comprehensive plan and ordinances that localities can consider.
Delegate, real quick, this is something that we've heard before because we had a similar Senate Bill 1178.
Actually, this is quite different from
A similar bill. So that's one of our discussions we wanted to have was if there's any conformance, and I see there's some help over here saying we want to understand what you want to do with the bill, and where do you want this to end up?
This is simplified. In addition, the amendment changes it so it's nonprofit housing. When it comes over into the form to you, it's in nonprofit housing. And in addition, it provides so that if a company buys a faith community's property and then builds, say, 50 condominiums on that property, they cannot then just sell it tax-free. They have to continue having affordable housing.
Okay. Council?
Mr. Chair, so we do have a substitute that is now available online, and we'll distribute it to the members. This is a substitute that Delegate Carr just described, and it is not a conforming substitute.
Okay. Is there a motion on the substitute? Is there a motion on the substitute? There's a motion and a second to adopt the substitute. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, substitute is properly before us. Thank you.
Can council, Mr. Chair, can council
Proceed.
explain the substitute?
She just explained it.
Yeah, I know delegate explained it, but I'd like council to, oh, you have no time to review it, okay. It's my understanding, Mr. Chair.
Senator Rouse.
Is the difference between your bill and 1178 was the SB 1178 did not have the religious part to it in terms of them actually selling the property. Am I understanding that correctly?
Why don't we have
Yeah.
phone a friend to come on up and help the committee out?
Evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Yes, the difference between HB 2153 and SB 1178. SB 1178 referenced religious organizations and property tax exempt nonprofits. HB 2153 specifically focuses on property tax exempt nonprofits, that is, as distinct from all nonprofits. Additionally, 2153 and the substitute before you adds the guardrail of a term of affordability. And one other small note, while this committee saw the bill, you immediately referred it to local government, so you haven't heard testimony on it yet.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any other questions, committee? Those in support of House Bill 2153 substitute, thumbs ups. Any opposition to House Bill 2153? No. All right, there's a motion and a second to report 2153. Clerk open the substitute. Clerk open the roll.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Okay, that bill reports, thank you. You had another bill. Delegate
Just two left.
Just two left.
I think the next one's close to final.
Well, which is the next bill?
2163 and 2154. Oh, okay, because of the architecture. All right, sorry. The final one then is 2163, enterprise zones. I'd like to move the, we've already done that, committee substitute.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to adopt the substitute for 2163. All in favor, please say aye.
Councilor.
It's just line amendments.
Oh, is it amendments or a substitute that we're adopting? Oh, line amendments. Okay. So we're going to vote on adopting the line amendments for 2163. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the bill as amended is before us. So when you explain, if you could just remind us what we amended.
This legislation just makes a few updates to the Enterprise Zone program, which will modernize and enhance it for better economic growth in Virginia's most economically distressed areas. The program has been instrumental in revitalizing neighborhoods and creating jobs, but it hasn't been significantly updated in over 20 years. The key changes in this bill include an elevated grant tier for larger investments. This would offer higher incentives for investments over $20 million, encouraging large-scale developments with a grant cap increased to $300,000 over 5 years, which could have a transformative impact on communities. It would also include support for daycare centers, expanding grant eligibility to include daycare centers supports working families by increasing workforce participation and fostering a more sustainable economic environment. And finally, importantly, there's a work group to review current zones. This work group would assess the effectiveness of current enterprise zones, ensuring that resources are optimally allocated and that the zones receiving support are achieving their intended outcomes. The work group, led by the Virginia Economic Development Partnership and the Department of Housing and Community, including VACO, VML, Virginia First Cities, and other interested parties, shall report its findings and recommendations by November 1st so that specific legislation proposals could be considered for the 2026 session. This bill was brought to me by the Virginia Economic Developers. Hope the committee will pass.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate.
Move to report and refer to finance.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, and before we vote on it, I just want to ask, is there anyone in the room who wanted to indicate support or give a thumbs up or indication of, okay, we see some support. Is there anyone opposed to the bill? Okay. So the motion is to report and refer to finance. We can, unless there's other comments or testimony, we can vote on the board.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Okay. Thank you. That bill reports. What is our, did we have one more, or is that complete your?
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members. Thank you for your indulgence.
Sure. Thank you for keeping us busy. Okay, Delegate Singh, your first appearance at the Senate General Laws Committee, is that right?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Well, we're worn down, so we're unlikely to give you a hard time, but.
All right.
I can't speak for all the members. Okay, so why don't you tell us about your bill and the bill number?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill came to us from the Board of the Library of Virginia. The legislation would expand the criteria that the Library of Virginia would be allowed to use to grant honorary patron of degrees, and I hope that the committee passes this bill.
So this allows honorary degree patron letters.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Senator Russ has an important question.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Delegate Singh, what is the address of the Library of Virginia?
I don't have that on hand. Well, actually, 800 East Broad Street, Richmond, Virginia, 23219.
You have the 9-digit zip code or just the?
He has a 9-digit zip code, but at present I don't have that information.
Unprepared. Okay.
Sir.
Okay. Was there? Did I hear a motion, or is there? Okay, and that was to report. Okay, and a second. Okay, so we can vote on that bill. Congratulations.
15, no 0.
Okay. Okay. Then we've got Delegate Maldonado's been patiently waiting and working on this legislation for a year, I think, or more, 2 years. What is your? Because I don't. What was our bill number here?
Mr. Chair, it's HB 2094. I have two bills up before the committee today.
Okay, so we're starting with 2094. Okay.
Correct. The first one is HB 2094. The second one is HB 2122.
$2094. Is that okay?
Would you like me
Great.
to begin? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, committee members. HB 2094 has a substitute. Has some line items I'd like to share those.
Okay, motion and a
And then
second to
speaking to
adopt
it.
the substitute. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now if you want to describe a substitute, if you could note any major differences would be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It may be easiest just to explain the bill because the latest round were just minor edits and tweaks that weren't substantive. So HB 2094 is a bill that it has limited application that uses, provides some guardrails at the intersection of three things that have to exist. The use of artificial intelligence systems with high-risk categories and making consequential decisions. So what does that mean? That means think about when we're using AI to decide whether you get a job, decide whether you get parole, decide whether you are eligible for housing. These are consequential decisions. High risk means it has great impact on our ability to live, to thrive. And so if we are working at that intersection, not just if anybody's using AI, but if you're using it at this intersection, then what we're simply asking is for us to be proactive versus reactive. They're to address, to reduce mitigation of potential harm. The bill requires a couple of things. Developers, who are the people who create the artificial intelligence systems, before they give them over to the group that is called deployers, the ones that take the system and put it in the environment. Before they do that, we want them to run an assessment impact to see if the outputs of their system are in alignment with the protections they're trying to address at the intersection of these three things. Once they give them to a developer, that developer will then put it in its environment. So it's the environment where they may put it in before they allow the public to use it or before they use it internally. If they make a modification that's substantial, they too have to run an assessment impact. Some people may say, why are we talking about theoretical harms? What we know is that these are not theoretical. They're actual harms that we have seen historically. So we're just asking folks to be proactive instead of reactive. The bill does have some exemptions for things like our cybersecurity, national security issues, video gaming, things like that. And some may think that there are full exemptions for example, our financial services industry or insurance industry. That's not actually the case in this bill. What this bill says is we want to help avoid heavy duplicative regulation. So if they're heavily regulated in this space and have regulations dealing with AI in the financial institutions world or the insurance world, then they will comply with those and be deemed to have complied with this. The other thing is that there is no legislation in the nation right now that has a private right of action when it comes to this kind of technology. My opinion around that is because it is new and evolving, we have to make sure we have breathable, flexible frameworks. Perhaps in the future, once we get everything a little bit more solidified in the evolution of the technology, we can start to look at other ways to provide enforcement. But in this moment, we have a very clear, robust and roadmap for how the Attorney General can address actions and enforcement. The good news is that we have a delayed enactment until July of 2026. That allows people to have time to figure out their systems and their processes. And also we have time to make some tweaks if we need to post this session. The one thing I want to address, we have spent, as the chair noted, Mr. Chair, over a year working on this bill with tens and tens of stakeholders. Every single stakeholder, I'm sure, that has approached you, every single one of them got something into this bill. And every single one of them also did not get something into this bill. And what we have found is that, as I've always been told, if you have equal parts happy and unhappy, and with a large stakeholder group, you've done yeoman's work for this. And everybody worked very hard on this. What I will say is that at the end of the day, this is a piece of legislation that will provide some really good frameworks. One of the things I just want to address around some concerns was, one, the private right of action. We do have disclosure requirements, so that is something that people want to look at with workers, with consumers. How do I know if I'm interacting with this kind of technology? What are my rights? So there are disclosures. You can appeal. There's a process to correct the information if it's incorrect. So there are opportunities for folks to take action as well. So I'm going to pause there, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and yield to any questions that might be here.
Mr. Chairman.
Before I go to Senator Rouse, I just want to state that this is I'm sorry, not Senator Rouse, Senator Reeves. But I get you two confused a lot.
We're both football players. We're both football players. It's hard to tell the difference. I know.
Right.
I'm in better shape and better looking, but that's okay.
Okay. I did. Okay. We're going to come back to order. So I just want to make it clear, though, that this is something that was referred last year to JCOTS, and we had an artificial intelligence subcommittee that conducted 3 or 4 meetings. And I know that you met with a lot of stakeholders before, during, and after those meetings. And we had testimony from some, and some others chose not to testify. But this was looked at along with Delegate Aird's bill, which was limited to the public sector. So
yes, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate your taking a lot of input, and I also appreciate from what I understand from what you said, this bill with the delayed enactment date of a year, that you're willing to come back to us with more tweaks next year if needed.
Yes, if needed, sir, Mr. Chair, absolutely.
Okay, I want to turn to Senator Reeves first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is more of a question for council on line 370, page 14 of the substitute. It says the obligations imposed on developers or deployers by this chapter shall not apply to any artificial intelligence system that is acquired by or for the federal government. Would it apply to those people before it's acquired? If they haven't sold it to the federal government, would the rules, in other words, as they're developing this software, the rules apply, but if they sell that software to the federal government, it doesn't apply. Is that the way I read that? Because let me tell you the premise of my question and why I'm asking that is I know a company that has developed an offensive cyber AI system that literally goes out and has given us actionable intelligence for some real world issues that would not comply if they were developing it. And they have to get under the Congressional Act, I think, permission from DOD, the State Department, and one other entity for the federal government to even sell it to another foreign company or a nation. So I just want to make sure that they can actually work on this stuff without having to fall under compliance with the intent to sell it to the federal government.
Mr. Chair, Senator Reeves, as I read this provision, this is an exemption. So the obligations imposed on such developers and deployers shall not apply to such a system that is acquired. So you're saying.
But, Mr. Chairman, if they haven't acquired it yet, they haven't sold it, but they're working on it.
Mr. Chair.
Delegate Maldonado.
I want us to also keep in mind in speaking to the senator's question that throughout this act, there are clear statements that if there are other national standards or regulatory standards that are applicable, that folks will be deemed to have complied with this act if they are complying with those. So so there would be duplication. And certainly there is nothing in here to prevent us from, addressing issues of national security. And I think the issues that are being asked by the senator, I can ask for legal to confirm that, but that certainly is the intention. We are trying to make sure we don't have duplicative efforts and that we don't interfere with things that relate particularly to national security.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Delegate, for doing all the hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready to hear from those who wanted to testify on this bill. We're going to put a time limit on each side, I think, of 4 minutes. First, we'll hear those for, and then those who have issues or are against the bill. Is there anyone here who wanted to speak in support of HB 2094? Please come forward and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Rob Shin, representing Verizon. We spent many hours with Delegate Maldonado. She did a great job working through all of our key issues, and pleased to say we're now good with the bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Ray Lemieux, President of the Broadband Association of Virginia. I want to applaud the delegate for the length of time she has spent on this and having an open door with her and her team to go through this. There's been a lot of work, and I applaud her efforts. We support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Were there those online, were they waiting to speak for or against? Well, let's ask them to raise their hands if they're for the bill.
Please raise your hand if you are speaking in favor of the bill.
No. Oh, okay. So, Melody Clark, if you want to show yourself on camera and unmute, we'd like to hear your testimony.
Yes, Mr. Chair, testimony from outside of Virginia. I am Melody Clark. Please conduct HB 2094. It will stifle innovation, trigger capital and talent flight, shift resources from production to legal compliance, creating unnecessary economic consequences to hurt Virginia's economy. It discourages investment and hampers technological progress. Extensive research confirms these facts. I am Melody Clark with Virginia Institute Action, urging you to reject HB 2094. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your testimony. We're seeking those proponents first. Now we'll hear from those in the room who have issues or are against this bill. 2094, anyone wanted to speak against? Okay. Those online who are against, raise your hands and the clerk will call on you.
Matt Schreier, unmute yourself and begin speaking.
Thank you. Matt Scherer, the Center for Democracy and Technology, the American Association of People with Disabilities, and the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund oppose this bill unless it's amended to close serious loopholes that would currently make the bill a dead letter the moment it's passed, and to amend it so that it provides more robust protection for disabled Virginians. We prepared written testimony that explains these concerns more thoroughly and would appreciate the opportunity to enter it in the record. And I'm happy to answer any questions or provide red lines showing the necessary changes.
I appreciate your written comments that I received. I did want to ask, had you engaged with Delegate Maldonado before yesterday or today, or have you engaged with her through the process to make suggestions at all?
Quite a bit, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And what do we have next?
Vincent Lee, unmute yourself and begin speaking.
Good evening. My name is Vincent Lay, and I'm the Vice President of AI Policy at Tech Equity. We're excited about the intent of the bill, but we oppose and ask for you to amend the bill to close loopholes that allow developers and deployers to essentially pick and choose if they want to comply with the law. This will make enforcement expensive and difficult for the AG and leave Virginians with less protections than provided to people in places like Colorado or the EU. Thank you.
Unmute yourself and begin speaking.
Thank you, Chair Eppen and members of the committee. My name is Kara Williams, and I'm a law fellow at the Electronic Privacy Information Center, or EPIC. EPIC is an independent, nonpartisan nonprofit founded 30 years ago to secure the right to privacy in the digital age, and I'm here today to respectfully oppose HB 2094 as written. EPIC supports states' efforts to protect residents by regulating the development and use of automated decision systems, but unfortunately, as currently drafted, HB 2094 misses the mark. This bill treats algorithmic discrimination as less harmful than discrimination by any other means. While traditional civil rights laws prohibit discrimination outright, this bill only requires companies to meet a lower duty of care standard in order to fully avoid liability. Second, this bill contains numerous loopholes that would allow companies to easily avoid complying while continuing to use these harmful AI tools. Without significant amendment, HB 2094 would do more harm than good for Virginians, so EPIC would ask that you vote against this legislation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. If I could ask, did you have you provided written amendments, or I received your comments? Did you propose specific line amendments?
To Delegate Maldonado earlier in the process, EPIC has also engaged, yes.
Thank you.
Move to report and refer to finance.
I think, do we have one more person wanting to testify or no?
Mr. Chair, before...
Okay, I want to let Senator Aird had been in the queue, or is it Williams Graves who was asking also? Okay, Senator Aird first.
I'm speaking to the bill, so I can wait if you have questions. Okay. Mr. Chair, I just, knowing there's a motion, I don't want to slow the train down. I just want to thank Delegate Maldonado for her leadership in this area on this legislation. As previously stated, JCOTS did spend a number of meetings dedicated to this legislation specifically, and I know that a lot of stakeholders expressed concerns that she has been amenable to addressing. I also just want to say that with any frontier legislation like this, it lays a foundation with the understanding that, of course, there will be continued conversation and continued, thoughts to how this policy will evolve and needs to be shaped moving forward. But I believe I heard Senator Maldonado say very forwardly that she will continue to have those conversations, continue to work with stakeholders. But I believe that what we have in front of us is a legislation that helps Virginia lead the way in making sure we do in some way, in particular, address high-risk systems, both with this legislation and the private sector. So and will be voting in support of the motion that has been made.
Thank you. And that now Delegate Williams Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too want to take the opportunity to thank the delegate for all of her hard work. We are seeing the effects of not doing anything when it comes to social media, and we're trying to put the horse back in the barn, and that's just not possible. And so I really appreciate the fact that you understand this work, can make it understandable for all of us who may not understand it, but know that it is what will be best for us as a whole going forward. And you do definitely have the art of a good compromise, because there are folks that are happy and folks that are unhappy. And so that says that you did your job well.
Okay, so there was a motion and a second to report and report of finance. Is that correct? Okay, so we can go ahead and vote.
Ayes 8, noes 4, 3 abstentions.
Okay, thank you, Delegate. And I would encourage folks to continue to engage with Delegate Maldonado with this legislation, because it's either going to be passed and open to amendment in the code next year, or if it's not passed, I suspect it'll be back next year. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
You have another bill, too.
Yes, Mr. Chair. HB 2122. This bill is it passed in the House, 7524. It is simply, I think, a very easy technical bill. Last year, we passed legislation that required in our leases for rental agreements to place all the fee information up front. But what it didn't do is make that also a requirement for our renters in our mobile home communities. So this fixes that. The second thing is, because of the increased flooding and extreme climate conditions, we've seen more flooding in our mobile home areas. And so working with advocacy groups and partners, we also work to make sure that in the lease agreement, in addition to having the fees up front, that we also have information about the fact that their homeowner's insurance may not include flood insurance, and that they may need to get some and where to go to get that. That is essentially the crux of the bill. And there is an amendment that we would like to.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve a technical amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Council, was that just a code citation, or was it more than that?
Mr. Chair, the amendment adds an enactment clause that the provisions shall only apply prospectively.
Okay, going forward, thank you. Now, I know there were housing advocates who wanted to speak for. Those who want to speak for, come forward first, and then we'll hear from anyone opposed.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I will keep it simple. Daniel Rezai, Virginia Poverty Law Center. Thank you, Delegate Maldonado, for carrying this vehicle so that our residents in manufactured housing communities have better access to information to help protect their homes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Randy Grumbine, representing the Virginia Manufactured and Modular Housing Association. We appreciate the delegate working with our early concerns and getting the bill to a place where we can support.
Thank you. Was there anyone who had issues or opposed? Yes, Senator Rum. Senator Rum, please. You have the floor.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to speak to the bill. So first, I just want to say thank you to the delegate for bringing the bill today in particular. The delegate's district and mine overlap rather considerably. And in that area, we represent at least 3 different mobile home parks, 2 in the city of Manassas and then 1 in the Yorkshire area of the county. And especially in Manassas, where the Easton Mobile Home Park had so much strife that they've had to overcome, to the point that the park was almost taken out. It is really refreshing to see our body actually doing something protecting the folks who live in these mobile home parks right now, because they've had a really tough time for a while. And I'm hoping that we can continue making sure that they don't have more strife. So many of them were worried about losing their homes because of a county decision that was recently pulled off the board. And I think this at least sends a nice signal to the folks over at Bull Run Mobile Home Park and our ones in the city that, we're going to do something to take care of you here too.
There's a motion and a second to report as amended. Was Senator anyone else waiting to speak or give a thumbs up?
Opposition.
Or anyone opposed? Okay, so we'll vote on the board.
Ayes 10, noes 5.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HB 1963 is a bill that seeks to build on the success of the Virginia Military Community Infrastructure Grant Program and Fund created by the General Assembly in 2022. It provides an annual grant award to eligible military communities to support infrastructure projects that enhance military readiness, installation resiliency, and quality of life for military communities. Since its creation, the grant fund has proven to be a high return investment in our military communities, especially in the Hampton Roads area. In my district, the City of Virginia Beach leveraged a $1.5 million grant from the fund to collaborate with Joint Expeditionary Base Little Creek and Naval Air Station on an $11.4 million project to upgrade the aging infrastructure at Creed's Law Enforcement Training Facility. This project will create a modern training environment for military personnel, police, firefighters, and other responders. The grant fund incentivizes and enables localities to compete for and win federal grants by sharing state funds to ease locality federal match requirements. Because of Virginia's commitment to state share, the program gives Virginia localities a competitive edge in competing for federal dollars. Federal grant program administrators recognize this as a best-in-class practice. So I hope you will.
Okay, thank you. I think you've got a supporter here who wanted to speak. Did you want to state your support and any additional information?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you, sir. I don't want to repeat what Delegate Tata said, but I will add some numbers behind this. The investment that you've made over the last few years has returned over 122% in federal share back to Virginia. It's wildly popular with our localities, and it's incentivizing them to seek more and more federal dollars that are returning back to Virginia. It's a wildly successful program this far, asking for $2.5 million this year, or next year, and $2.5 the following year to keep this program going and returning more and more federal dollars to our Commonwealth.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Reeves.
I just want to make a statement to the committee. If you haven't met Tom worked for the previous administration as well, and he's one of the few individuals that's worked for 3 governors now, I believe, but
just two. Thank you, sir.
That keeps our federal dollars rolling from DOD, and I just want to thank him in front of the committee for all the hard work you do for us, Tom.
I'm not going to ask who your favorite governor was. I don't.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Brent McKenzie with the City of Virginia Beach. Just wanted to thank Delegate Tata for her leadership on this issue and echo some of her thoughts. We've been able to leverage this grant program tremendously in the city, and we think this expansion of the program would be very beneficial. Thank you.
Finance.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to report and re-refer to Finance. Unless there's other questions or anyone compelled to speak otherwise, we will vote.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Now we've got Delegate Oates.
Thank you, Senator and committee. House Bill 2750 is the bill before you. During the 2023 session, this body adopted legislation to address automatic renewal terms and agreements between common interest community associations and community management firms. That legislation provided that if the management contract contained an automatic renewal provision, the contract must also contain a provision to allow termination without cause on or not less than 60 days' notice. The goal of the legislation was to strike a balance in the contract between management firms and volunteer-led communities that may not always understand or appreciate calendar automatic renewal terms. So the change in 2023 was supported by the management firms and community associations. In fact, the language of the 2023 bill was a solution proposed by the management firms. The change was intended to provide that cancellation would be without a penalty, but some management companies, not all, have continued to apply a penalty when an association terminates without cause. That was not what was intended with the initial bill. So the bill before you is hopefully going to fix unintended consequences. House Bill 2750 amends the Condominium Act and Property Owners Association Act to make clear that without cause, termination of a management contract means that termination is without penalty. It also requires the community management firms to transfer and release all association funds and close association bank accounts within a reasonable time after termination of the management agreement. This requirement is consistent with current requirements for release of association books and records by management firms. Thank you for hearing the bill.
Community Association on the bill, or if they're waiting to testify. Is Ms. Trigiani online or anyone online on this bill? Excuse me? Yeah. Okay, so let's first hear from Ms. Trigiani. If you could show yourself on camera and unmute, we'll give you a minute if that's okay.
Nagi, turn on your camera and speak now.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of the bill. This clears up an unintended result of a bill 2 years ago that the Delegate Oates has described very well. We support the bill and urge the committee to act on it favorably. I'm glad to answer any questions, Senator.
Okay, there's a motion, a second to report. Was there anyone else waiting to speak on this particular bill? Yes, please.
Tiago Becerra, turn on your camera and unmute yourself now.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Tiago Becerra, and I'm the chair of the Virginia Legislative Action Committee of the Community Associations Institute. And I'll just reiterate the comments from Ms. Trigiani, and we support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So is there a motion?
Ayes 10, noes 4, 1 abstention.
Thank you very much.
So next, I believe that Senator Williams-Graves was going to present on behalf of Delegate LaVere Bowling, or I can present for Delegate McQuinn if you want me to go first. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to do it? You've got your... Okay, so let's hear on, we'll direct our attention to House Bill 1932.
Yes. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, House Bill 1932 addresses racial bias in home appraisals, which is a persistent issue contributing to the racial wealth gap. Homes in minority neighborhoods are frequently undervalued compared to comparable homes in white neighborhoods, resulting in significant financial disadvantages for homeowners of color. Homes in majority Black neighborhoods are undervalued twice as often as those in majority white areas, with disparities in appraised values costing Black communities an estimated $162 billion in lost equity. Additionally, these biases extend to other minority communities such as Indigenous, Southeast Asian, and Pacific Island populations, exacerbating economic inequalities. The task force that this bill calls for comprises of experts from various sectors will develop strategies to reduce appraisal bias, increases diversity in the profession, and improves oversight of the evaluation standards. It also will explore solutions for diluting biased valuations. By recommending legislative and policy changes, HB 1932 aims to promote fair housing valuation and advance economic justice across Virginia. The provisions of this bill do expire July 1, 2028, and I think there might be stakeholders here.
Okay, there's a motion, a second, to report this bill for a task force on property appraisal and valuation equity. Was there anyone who wanted to just give a thumbs up or state anything that we missed? Okay, we're seeing some diehard attendees. Thank you for your tenacity. Okay, so is there a motion? There's a motion and a second to report House Bill 1932, which I like, has 6 Senate-appointed members and 6 House-appointed members. That was very wise of the delegate. Okay, let's vote on the board.
Not those 6.
Naysayers.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I have a bill for Delegate McQuinn, who unfortunately had a loss in her family this week. So it's on the mold issue, 2195, dealing with regulation of mold remediation. And let me see if I've got my notes. Okay. The and there may be witnesses online or who are here, but it deals with the profession of mold remediation and inspection, which is unregulated outside of HB 1270 that was brought to us last year, which Delegate McQuinn aims to amend. This would move mold inspectors to be regulated at a higher level, which is certification, because lower levels have not met the needs of consumers and don't protect workers in the field adequately.
Good report.
Motion and a second to report. Was there a witness here about this problem? No. Thumbs up? Okay. Well, we can. Was there anyone online to speak? Okay, I want to suggest that the witnesses be brief, maybe consider keeping it to 30 seconds and show themselves on camera and unmute now.
Jocelyn Hildebrand, unmute yourself and turn on your camera now.
Hello, my name is Jocelyn. I live in Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm here on behalf of Virginia Organizing and the Statewide Housing Committee. We are grateful for the bipartisan effort on this bill, and we support it. Thank you.
Thank you for your brevity. And we have one more, I believe, right? Is that right, or was that the only witness? Okay, so we'll now vote on the motion.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Oh, okay. So that bill reports. Did we get through all the bills? Is there more? We have a birthday on the podium. So, in recognition of your birthday, we're going to let you leave before midnight. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! It's turning red.
Thank you. Okay. So, but we have completed our work. Wonderful. Okay. Thanks everyone for. Thanks for bearing with us, everyone, and for your brevity and humor at times.
Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.